and welcome. Again, this is Safe Space. This is your prophetic purpose pusher, Pastor D. We have been having a phenomenal time. Since we started Safe Space, the feedback is just awesome. Lives are being changed, conversation is taking place, people are communicating, and that's the purpose. Creating a space where hearts are unpacked, hope comes alive, destiny thrive, where manifestation, miracles, the magnificent wonder of God's redemptive power shows up in spaces, in persons, in people's lives, and do the exceeding abundantly above all that we can ask or think. Hit that subscribe button and come on in. Let's talk. Let's become vulnerable. Let's take the mask off. Let's take off the mask of pretending, the mask of being sad but appearing happy. Let's talk about marriage and love and marriage. What does it look like? How can I navigate marriage and love in society in this time where divorce is vogue, where divorce is in style? The survey says, Barna's survey says that 72% of people in America, 72% are shacking up. 72%. That means they are enjoying the benefits without the vow. They're living together, coexisting, yet the vow becomes a problem. Another survey says that over 60% of people, of Christians, end in divorce. Wow, that number is staggering. So while we are shouting, while we are doing everything else, over 60% of marriages, Christian homes, end in divorce. What happened to the children? What happened to the crash site? Who cleans that up? Who come in and excavate? Who comes in and redeem what God already has redeemed? What happened to love? The scripture says that I'm intoxicated by his love. Song of Solomon says, set a seal on my heart. That love never fails. So why is marriage in the church failing? When we have a big God, a covenant God, when we have a promise before problems arise, that when we take a vow before God and man, what happened to that? So in studio, we have again the Cellents. And just to get you up to date, Nathali Cellent was vulnerable, honest, open, free. She expressed so far her experience coming into a new marriage, being young, being infatuated, being swept off of her feet, being pursued from Jean Pierre Cellent, bi-coastal relationship, him flying in, whining and dining her, putting his best foot forward, and just capturing and captivating her, almost like Cinderella. But we also know that Cinderella's story is in Disney character. How does it play out for real in life? So I'm going to introduce you to the Cellents. Natalie Cellent, how are you today?
I am well. How are you?
I am doing amazing. I am so excited to continue the story. I am telling you, I was leaning in. I was like, wow, what a beautiful story. My heart was tender. The tears, I was pushing back the tears. I was holding on to my seat. I couldn't wait to hear you become vulnerable, naked, and not ashamed, sharing your journey and not encumbered. Wow, thank you.
Thank you for creating such a safe space to share my story.
Wonderful. And Jean Pierre Salent is here in studio. And he also, as a man, opened up and he allowed his wife to be free. He didn't give her the stink eye. He didn't like, why are you sharing that? Because they're doing their work. And when you're doing your work, there's no blame, no shame. This is a guilt free zone. So thank you. Thank you for allowing your story to be shared.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for creating a safe space, and you actually can feel the peace, and it's welcoming, and you know when you feel that peace, you can just open up your heart. So I'm grateful for this space.
That's good because that's the reason it's not scripted. There is no prepared, rehearsed questions because this is matters of the heart. And when we're dealing with the matters of the heart, because I've been involved with your story and because we have come alongside and helped to navigate that, you kind of learn when you have your own story to handle people's story with care. But
Just
you are the best person that can tell
Right.
your story. If I tell it, I might leave out some important details. If you tell Natalie's story, you may miss the vulnerability of her heart.
Right.
And that's why Safe Space is created. It's not just a space where we're just telling our business and just being carnal and just because we don't have anything to do. We believe that this is making a difference. So, Natalie, I want to pick up the story. And you've now gotten married. Um, you had your honeymoon in Jamaica and you had a great time. And now you've moved from Philly. Hello, Philly. You're out there. These be your people. And you moved to North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. You're young. You're expecting your first baby, and now you've moved into your now husband. Now you can say husband's
Yes.
space. Tell me, just recap with us. How did you feel when he moved you into a space, his space? Talk to me.
Well, I had so many mixed emotions. I was excited, but I was scared confused, but then also excited because I'm like, okay, I am mature. I'm out of my parents' home, but now I'm like, I'm in a new environment, and now I have to learn how to be a wife, and I'm a young mother or expecting young mother. So I didn't know. I'm just, it was so many different range of emotions that I'm trying to process, like trying to be a wife, but then I'm a mom or expectant mother, and then I'm going through all these different emotions, and I'm going through a whole nother culture shock, and now I'm in a different, church environment. It was just so much like different emotions that I had to try to manage at once. It was a lot.
Okay, keep talking. Talk to us about, thank you for sharing that. So you had to manage your emotions. So this is not like Cinderella's story. This is actually happening. And you are here in North Carolina, and now you're pregnant, scared. You're married, scared. You in a new environment, scared. You have a new church, scared. Talk to me about the shame that you felt, or did you feel? Tell me how you felt.
I did feel shame, and I didn't know how to explain that shame to my husband. Because I felt like when I came into the marriage, I felt like people had this expectation of, okay, there's this John, and he just got this girl married. And I felt like people would, I don't know, I felt like people was thinking I was a gold digger. I don't know, that's the, that's the thought that came to my mind.
Gold digger, gold digger. All right. Gold digger. I love that. I love the transparency. And the reason that a gold digger, yeah. I mean, yeah, so I want John to pick that up because John was in business, very successful, doing very, very well. And for us that knew and know John, knew that he was um, a giver and he can be lavish. He live big, play big, live big, right? And so, talk to me about you're bringing in your new bride, where your business partners are concerned, your church spiritual parents, and your church family, and you. Talk to me about that.
Well, it was totally different when my wife came. It was a culture shock for the house. I was happy to have my wife, but I'm used to having things a certain way.
Well, what do you mean by that?
I like my clothes a certain way, and shoes and furniture. She just came and just switched up everything, 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 and it was hard to adjust. It was real hard to adjust, and in the beginning I was a little controlling, not knowing.
Wait. You kind of slide. Like, we went from first base to third base. Okay, wait a minute. So, if I'm hearing you, you didn't make room for her. You married her, but you didn't understand that she was supposed to come in and create a space that was hers too. So you married her, but in your heart and in the environment, it was difficult to navigate. What do you thought you were getting a helper? Oh, I'm just asking.
It was I don't know.
A maid?
My perception of what a wife was I thought it was just stay at home wife and do this, do that, do this.
Where you get that from? To create that picture for me. I mean, who told you? I love that. Who told you? Who told you? Who told you? Or where did you get the image of what you were looking for?
In our culture, in the Haitian culture, most of the time the woman stays home and the man take care of everything. And but as far as what I seen growing up, I didn't see the liberty of a woman having the freedom. They just had to just obey the man, respect the man, and so that's what I thought. I thought that was going to happen.
Oh, I love that. No, because we're in a safe space and we're not making light of this because these are important topics.
Right.
So you're saying that your image is that She's thinking that people are thinking she's a gold digger. So she is vulnerable. She is feeling shamed. You wined and dined her. And now you have a built in woman that you now are going to control.
Right.
And you're going to tell her, jump, do. But in the dating process, did you show that side of you?
No, I was in my best behavior.
Okay, talk to me about that. So his expectation was not communicated to you, because you wouldn't have married him, would you? I'm just kidding. No, because here you are, innocent, excited. This preacher that you slid into his DM, big Bible. I told you I watched those big Bible. And now he's whining and dining. He's on his best behavior. So your expectation is that when he brings you, and he assured your mom that I got this, because he not only wined and dined you, he wined and dined your mother.
Mm.
And so he got the go ahead to take you, and here he is bringing you with a false self. A false self. He presented a false front, we call that. A false self, because in his mind, he was going to capture you, captivate you, and conquer you. And when this bold, beautiful chocolate wife of yours didn't kiss your pinky and your ring and bow in obeisance, how did that make you feel? Because you have a concept. You saw that lived out in front of you. Talk to me about that.
Well, I thought she was out of order.
No, that's good.
I thought she was disobedient. She disobeyed. It was out of order, and but I've come to know her in a whole different way now.
Yeah, but we didn't come there yet.
Okay.
So we didn't come there yet, because that's a journey.
Right. That's
And
a journey.
we don't want to make light of the work you guys are putting in.
Yeah.
And so, church talk, this is church talk. So now you thought she's disobedient.
Right.
You thought a meek and a quiet spirit
Right.
that the Lord loves. And you think that she's not submitted.
Right.
And you think that I need to bring her back and get another one.
I mean, we had them type of conversations.
Okay, okay. All right. So now that the honeymoon is over, and how did he present his expectation of what you're supposed to do?
He didn't really present anything. It was just expected of. And some of the stuff I didn't know. Because he's talking about his experience. But growing up, I was raised by two strong, dominant women. I wasn't raised with, a male/father figure in my home. So I know what a mother looked like, but what a wife looks like.
Oh, wait a minute. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Because many, many women or men are in single parent homes.
Right.
And so you had a picture of what a mother looks like, and the mother who would become a wife should be. So you're taking your mom, your grandmother, the women around you, and that's the picture. And so your expectation is different from his expectation. He is a businessman. He's used to getting what he wants. He's a negotiator. And he's coming in saying, I'm going to provide, and you are just going to do whatever I want you to do whenever I want you to do that. So talk to me about you when the first time, because she said were you even cognizant? Were you even aware that she wasn't even understanding the expectations?
No, not really. No, because I was young too. So I have an old soul, but this was still a learning curve for me. And you know, I know some things I knew she was not aware of, and there's some things I did not know. I just automatically expected because my mindset that she's raised up in the same type of culture that, that she would embrace that, embrace the culture. And, but right, culture ain't got nothing to do with that. That was a learning curve too in itself. So, and, so it took some time. It took some time to, to, to develop, her, to help her, be herself. And what I expected, she did wind up meeting most of the expectations, and in a nice way, in a beautiful way, but allowing her to be her, right, and be free, right.
I love those word choices. So we're going to talk about those words of power. So this is good. This is good because this is safe space and this is unrehearsed. And so he has expectation. So did you find that what do you call him? Peter.
Mhm.
Okay. So you don't call him John. You have a name that you call him, right? But when you're not mad at him, what do you call him?
Babe,
Babe. But when you're mad at him, you call him
Peter.
Peter. Peter. Okay. So when Peter, we're still talking about Jean Pierre, right? When Peter showed up, and like in the Bible, Peter showed up.
Yeah.
When Peter showed up with all this expectation, you are from a matriarchal background, and Peter showed up with the demands. You're pregnant. You still not processed. You haven't gotten any counseling. You haven't been able to speak to anyone yet. How did you navigate Peter? Not babe.
Through anger, rage,
Yeah.
and sometimes, yes, yelling.
No, this is okay. This is good.
Sometimes, withdrawing,
Yeah.
shutting down emotionally. Because if I feel like I'm telling you something and you're just not listening, or you're coming in and you already going to solve the problem without listening, I just get really angry. I get really mad, or I just get really quiet and I just withdraw and I shut down because I'm like, you don't care anyway. Because you already came up with a solution, but you didn't really listen to what I'm saying. Because you're just being so demanding.
So you're saying he was talking without processing.
Yes.
He was talking without attentive, empathetic listening. He was not engaged in your heart. Your heart was shattered for the communication. The level of communication that was in dating could not be found in this newfound freedom that you thought you had. Talk to me about, or were you aware, and I'm going to ask Natalie the same question, were you aware of the emotional damage? Were you aware of the pain based on the communication style that you chose to use with your beloved?
um not somewhat, no. I would say yes and no. One thing that did click early is she didn't have a father, and she wasn't raised up with a dad, so she didn't understand my voice. And sometimes I can just be direct, and I'm actually talking in love.
Wait a minute, wait. I want you, no, I want you to demonstrate being direct to her right now. Kind of demonstrate a direct communication for me.
Um, let's just say, give me something, babe, just to.
No, it's your turn. Be direct and you feel it's love. Talk to her.
Or let's just say she said something to me wrong. Let's just use that, right? Let's just say you said something.
No, it's nothing about her wrongness. It's about you being direct and you need her to do something.
Okay, babe, I need you to go ahead and handle this because I got to run a few errands. Get that done. I appreciate you. That's it.
Okay. All right. Communicate that same thing how you hear it.
I hear it. Babe, I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what's going on in your schedule. I need this to be done now. Stop what you're doing and get this thing done.
That's beautiful. Okay, see, that's beautiful. So your intent didn't come off in love. Now say something to her, um, loving.
Okay. Well, baby, thank you for being very thoughtful. I seen that you straightened up all the paperwork and you got things done for me, and I even asked you for doing this. I just want to say thank you for doing that. I appreciate
And
it.
tell her you love her in French. Let me hear that.
Maintenant, puis my down the bell up here.
That sounds different from what we said before. I mean, I don't even speak Creole. I don't even speak French. And I'm like, talk to me. Hey, talk to me. Okay. I mean, like, like, okay. I see, I can lean into that. And
Yeah.
our eyes were just dancing, right? Different from when, and when he talks to you like what he just said, how do you respond? Respond in French to him.
Merci, appreciate.
See that laugh?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we understand that all good intention is a road paved to hell. That and that's for the listeners too, that when we communicate, we have to communicate with the other person in mind.
Right.
And you were communicating, and this is good, with you in mind, the task you needed. And you were expecting that he would communicate your expectation with the sense of love. Like, I'm going to do it, and I understand you're busy, but please, because it's important, can you get that done? Right? And so here comes the miscommunication. So now you came to church, and people think you're looking at them because he has business associate, he's popular, he's a boss, So he was being a boss in the marriage. So how did you shut off, or did you shut off the boss man when you got home?
Well, in the beginning, no. I was used to having everyone
Bow.
bow, and when I tell them to do
Lick
something,
your shoes.
they get it done. But my God.
Okay, so you heard the boss coming to you, and what were you saying to the boss?
Who are you talking to?
Yeah.
Okay.
You talk to me like that, shut up, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and so you see that you didn't click your heels 3 times. You didn't allow the Holy Spirit, when you were changing roles, to come home,
Right.
right? You were coming home with the same mindset, the same mindset that I get what I want at any cost. Doesn't matter how much accidents I cause, because I'm the most important crayon in the box. My needs are most important. And when we communicate like this, romance doesn't take place.
Right.
I mean, intimacy doesn't take place. Physical things may be done, right?
Right.
But so now you're at church and people are looking at you and you're thinking like gold digger, right? Where you John, where you get this chick from?
Right.
That's what you were thinking. Yeah, we were kind of saying that too. Who's she? We some wild bunch of people like, this is our son, who you? And so now John brought you to the ministry. How were you received?
Oh, well, welcome arms.
So your expectation and the shame, you were expecting that, but that wasn't, it was the opposite. Talk to me about how that made you feel.
It made me feel more, willing to open up a little bit more, because everybody created such a safe and loving environment. And so it was like, oh, okay, like I could fit in now. Like I'm slowly fitting in, because it felt like family.
Okay, so the judgment didn't happen.
Oh, no.
So you were waiting for somebody to point the finger,
Mm-hmm.
and that didn't happen.
No.
and you felt like you were in a safe space.
Yes.
Okay, so John brought you in a safe space, and then because female, we kind of rallied around you to protect you from John.
Yeah.
It felt like that, right?
Yes.
Okay, now, and this is good because people need to know that you guys were young
Right.
and you guys had expectation. John had moolah, walla, walla, money, dinero. And so he was ruling with his power, with his money, with his influence. He was ruling with his position, but you felt it wasn't from a place of love. We're sealing that.
Right.
Because oftentimes, when we are in business, when we're called to ministry, we will blame that on our prophetic nature. We will blame that on the call. And we won't do the work. We won't do the boundary work. We won't do the soul work, psychology, soul work. We won't do the soul work because we think that we can shout over it.
Right. Right.
We can pray over it.
Right.
We can preach over it.
Mighty God.
And it causes such tension. You know, oftentimes when I'm at church and being in the role of leadership, I look at couples and sometimes I'm wondering, it's like the Red Sea, the River Jordan is between them. Everybody's looking straight and direct. Nobody's holding hands. Nobody's looking lovingly because I think they think that God may say, you're in church while you're holding hands, while you're lovingly looking at your wife. Why your kids look so scared? Why your kids look so scared? And this conversation is taking place because we're in a dichotomy. We're at an impasse. How did you resolve your issue, or have you resolved your issue in expectation?
Well, I would say it's a work in progress. We've grown a lot. You know, marriage, you never graduate. You go from faith to faith, glory to glory, to a trial to a victory, through a lot, right? And so it's a process. You know, things that used to bother me don't bother me no more. Well, not everything, but some things don't bother me no more. So it's you know, you talked about the work. You just got to do the work, and the work is painful. The work is a lot. The work is dying to yourself. The work is you losing some battles. The work is you winning some battles, and it's challenging at times. But at the end of the day, you're trying to be more like Christ, right? And you know, Bishop always says, you know, he always say, marriage brings the best and the worst out of you. And you know, in the beginning of my marriage, he would say that, but my God, that statement in itself is so profound because it's so true. It really does bring the best out of you and the worst out of you. And the worst you never knew that was there, never knew that even it existed. But it takes us dying to ourselves and applying the work, and it takes another level of love. You know, another level of love. There's a love that's deep down in God that you can tap into, and that's what I did for my wife, and I'm glad that my wife was feisty, you know, and sharp with the mouth and all that. Because if I had somebody else, I would walk over them or walk all over
Okay,
them.
wait a minute here. So, Natalie, how did it feel you coming into a church and the role of leadership? Tell me the value of the role of leadership in your marriage. Talk to me about that.
For me, it was a safety net. It was a safe place because all of my safe place was in Philadelphia. But to have a safe place here where if there's life is happening, I could call them and they will cover me. They won't expose me or shame me. That
Yeah, you sure enough called. Lord have mercy.
You can hear that, people.
Yeah, dead talk.
Over every little thing too. You call by and said, "My God."
Speed though.
Yeah, and we're not even going to go there. So talk to me, because a lot of times people oftentimes says my business is nobody's business, and but I oftentimes says, you know, God knows, and the devil knows,
Yes.
and it depends on who you submit to, because and so here you have leadership that was helping you to become having a safe space to process your uncertainty, your anger, your frustration, so it wouldn't become bitterness, and in your brokenness you found a safe space. So safe space was came into manifestation and was birthed out of creating spaces, and so that was invaluable to you.
Yes.
And so while you're navigating your husband's demand, the expectations, you had a space, not just church, where you could come, bear all the pain, and communicate it, and feel what?
Feel like someone's listening. Feel heard.
Feel heard.
That's good.
Feel heard. And so in marriages, oftentimes when we're in leadership, if respect is not at the top of the list, love, God's love is not at the top of the list,
Right.
knowing that in boundaries we're taught that you have to know where you begin
Mhm.
and where you end and where Natalie starts. So there was a lot of boundary collision. There was a lot of out of bound behavior early in the marriage, and even navigating your how was 12 years.
Yes, 12 in the next month.
Yeah.
12 years.
12, how I know. Ask me how I know. And navigating the 12 years, and it's been a privilege and painful and purposeful to watch you guys navigate the roads,
Right.
the terrain,
Right.
and watch you guys navigate that. And sometimes I felt like I wanted to punch you in the mouth, and and somebody might say, "Oh, punch you in the mouth, that's violent." No, in the sense that that's ebonics, in the sense the frustration of, come on, are you listening?
Right.
I mean, are you going to repeat that which you've already lived? Are you going to be Peter Pan? Are you going to be stuck at 13 and putting it on your wife because you can't have your way, and calling it communication, calling it submission, right? And so when we haven't done our work, when we don't understand boundaries, when we're broken, busted, barren, when we have mother issue and unmet needs, father issues, then what happens is we bring that expectation in marriage, and you expect another human being, like a magician, to know, or like a genie, to know exactly what they should do.
Mhm.
And that affects romance,
Right.
that affects intimacy, and that breaks relationship down. So I heard you said that you were glad she wasn't a trophy wife. She wasn't submitted and just shut up.
Yeah, because I would have never known that in the beginning, but you've been married now for 12 years. You appreciate that. I'm reminded of when David said it was good for me that I was afflicted. So it's good for me to have a strong woman, and that did um, uh, that did bark back.
Not a chihuahua. Not a pit bull, but a German shepherd. We got to be German shepherds, right? We can't be chihuahua just like, our pit will just bite everything, right? The Bible says you bite and devour one another with your mouth. So we weren't biting and devouring, and you were just not nagging. That's the chihuahua spirit, right?
Right.
And then the pit bull is just biting and devouring, right?
Right.
The soft answer turned away wrath. So you have to come to our boundary class and kind of learn how to deal with your soul, deal with the false expectation, the unmet needs first. And then you start learning how to communicate your needs to him. Talk to me about when you start learning how to communicate your needs to your husband.
I think I started just being more vocal, being more honest, and telling him, like, if he does or say something that I don't like, instead of just trying to act like I didn't hear it, I would tell him, like, no, like, I don't like when you said this. I don't like when you said that. I don't like when you do this. I don't like when you do that. And at first he was like, what? But then eventually he started, to adjust to what I was saying. And then he started creating his own boundaries.
Okay. Okay, so now you didn't come to my class, but now you are stealing her notes and and you were stealing her notes. No, you were seeing her style of communication. You were seeing that if you misbehave or you were demanding, that she was meeting you in rage. She was meeting you in anger. She was creating boundaries and says, if you violate these boundaries, then I'm going to tell you where my line starts and stop. How did that make you feel, boss man?
Well, I didn't like it, initially. To be honest, I didn't like it, because I felt like, in the beginning, I'm the one that set the boundaries.
No, you thought you set the boundaries. No, you were the one who set your expectation, but those are not proper boundaries. You set that whenever she said, I'm supposed to come home, food is cooked, clothes is clean, even the baby is not taken care. You are going to do what I tell you to do. So you call that boundaries, but that's really not boundaries.
Right.
Yeah, you know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know that, right? And to the listeners, I'm glad that the Cellents are being open and transparent because they're in ministry. They both have a call on their lives. And sometimes when you are a boss, I mean, like a boss, like mean you own your own business, you got the money to back your boss behavior, and the expectation is that you had money like stones at that time and you could just drop $100 and somebody barked like a dog. I mean, you drop $1,000 and somebody's like, whatever you want me to do, Mr. John, right? So with that leading you, I mean, preachers and all, you just had the money, and if you need a prophecy, you was like, okay, here's a seed, right? And then manufacture one, right? So you the man, right? But then you come home, and the one person you want to conquer is challenging you with your poor behavior. The one person that you pledge to take care of is challenging your false self. Is challenging your what we call the performance behavior. Talk to me about navigating that.
Well, I will first say uh, that, being a boss, being a leader, a minister of the gospel, to all the listeners, everyone needs a safe space. You need someone you can confide to and show your nakedness. And a lot of times, as being a leader, sometimes you may think that you can't confide into someone. And some of that is probably because of ego or pride or fear. And you gotta open up. So I'm literally eternally grateful for you, mother, and as well as Bishop, because I was able to show my nakedness and not be ashamed, and then having you guys delivering the wisdom to help me navigate the problems that I've been going through has helped me out a lot. So for me, I would say counseling and having that safe space. And I'm not talking about somebody that just got married or that never been married. I'm talking about somebody that's higher than you, that got some battle scars, that got the experience, that is anointed, right? That loves God. That's actually a great example You need that. You have to have that. And a lot of times men were uncomfortable to open up sometimes, open up about our failures, open up about, our mistakes that we made. But you need that. You gotta have that. It's just like talking to, God, right? You can talk to God about anything and everything. And God uses men, right? He uses men and women to give you the answers, to give you the solutions to the problem that you have. So I say the safe space, that's what helped me navigate. And I appreciate it even more, right? I appreciate covering, you know, you know, covering is they cover your nakedness, they cover you, right? So uh, I think, a lot of times in the body of Christ, people say they got coverings, but they ain't really being covered at all, right? And I understand the true difference, and that's my answer.
That's great. That's so perfectly put that men, I can't vocalize that because I'm a female. Love being a female. But you said something that is potent, that begs repeating, is that sometimes men are afraid of failure, their fears, right? Or they're fighting a battle that nobody else can see because the damage in societies, the false expectations that have been set. I call that in counseling, that is called the performance trap.
Mm.
So you are in a performance trap that you had to behave a certain way. And in falling in the performance trap, love becomes divided. Love is not a part of the equation because love is patient and kind.
Yes, yes.
And marriage, we've learned that, is to make us more Christ like than to be self glorifying.
Mhm.
The scripture says that in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord
Yes.
high and lifted up. And if Christ is not the destination, the theme of marriage, if Christ is not the central figure,
Mhm.
if Christ is not the foundation, the fundamental, the final answer, then what happened is fault finding, fear, fighting becomes a part of the marriage. And what you have is abuse of power. What you have is bitterness. What you have is stay together for the children's sake. And what you have is putting on a front.
Right, right.
Putting up a front. So thank you for sharing that to the men. And now, Natalie, I'm going to ask you to share from your heart. This is a place where you share in your heart and share, because there are young girls like yourself. Now, of course, you're a full grown woman, but when you came to us, you were a little girl. And to me, that is because my daughter, youngest, was older than you. And so when you came to me, I could see the little girl, I could see how frightened you were. And and offering that space and that covering. And to this day, they call me the vault because when it goes on, what goes in the vault, unless you have access, you get nothing from the vault.
Right.
It's not preached on Sunday morning. It's not used as a joke. It's not used to make a point because people use people's story to make a point because they themselves are defected. They themselves haven't done their work. So a lot of time they have to magnify somebody else's issue so that they don't have to deal with theirs. So talk to me about now to the young girls who have this Cinderella complex, this knight in shining armor. Your husband, he courted you. He swept you off your feet. I mean, he was throwing money at you, girl. Like, I mean, like, yeah. And and you're thinking that these people down in Charlotte don't think I'm a gold digger, right? And some of us did say that, right? And and because we're like, because we knew Jean first, right? And he's a son. And I was telling him, I was like, what are you doing? Why are you going to Philly? And I gave him a prophetic word, right?
Yeah.
And I said to him the Sunday, right?
Yeah.
When he was going to meet little John, had he listened, that's all I'm gonna say. Hallelujah. Gave him the word, but you know what that means.
God.
David didn't listen. When Nathan came, okay, that's all we're gonna say, right? And gave him a prophetic word, and he was so in love. He threw caution to the wind. He's like, I have to have her, right? I'm gonna bypass the lady with the 5 kids with the old Cadillac that prophesied that he was going. He was bypassing all the other damsel, all the other ladies, all the other women to take a flight, an hour and 15 minutes. And when we called, where are you? I'm running an errand. He was running an errand. And talk to the young ladies, talk out of what you've learned and what kind of wisdom to women of God. You are, you sing beautifully, you are an intercessor, you have come up in your presentation, you've come up as a human being, you have reclaimed your soul, you are taking hold of your emotion, and you're leading your heart and not letting your heart lead you. Talk to the listeners.
I would tell all the young ladies that it's okay to get lost, but make sure you get lost in God. And make sure that you allow yourself to be vulnerable. Make sure you allow yourself to get cleansed and washed by God. We all have a story. I have a story. What makes it so beautiful is that I allow God to, cleanse me from the inside out. And be willing to have people to walk you through the process. Don't be so hard headed. Don't be so stubborn and think, oh, you can do it yourself. Because if you try to do it yourself, it's going to be horrible. But when you have people that's willing to love you through it and walk you through the process, you want to guard the safe space. And so I would tell every young woman that regardless of your background, regardless of what you've been through, that it's going to get better. And that when you allow people to pour into you and you allow yourself to be cleansed, you will have a better, more beautiful version of yourself.
Oh, that's so good. Everybody have a story, but I oftentimes says, let people tell their own story. I think it is premature.
Right.
I think you cheat somebody in trying to tell their story. There's important details that you will miss.
Right.
And sometimes when we're in ministry, you only see people for maybe 2 hours
Mm-hmm.
on a Sunday and on a Wednesday. So to say that you know people intimately would be a lie,
Right.
would be part truth. And so as you're listening in, and we're talking to young people in marriage that started young, that had money, that had the romance, that could fly anywhere, but yet still the expectations were not communicated. There was not necessarily professional counseling done to help to navigate that. And so sometimes we think that we have enough information that we can navigate a lifetime commitment without proper counseling, without having someone helping us
Right. Right.
to do that. I remember, like, when I started going to school, one of the reasons I went to school again and again and again, it's because I saw the need in church. Yes, I was a pastor, but I saw the need for equipping, for proper protocols, for how to handle people's flesh, people's broken souls. It wasn't their perfect spirit that belongs to God. It was the neglect, the abuse that was lived sometimes with their parents. It was the abandonment. It was the loneliness. It was the fear. It was the spanking. In the Caribbean culture, we call that the beat down, drag down, shut your mouth, be quiet. And so sometimes when that's demonstrated to us, we take that in marriage. And when we couldn't beat our parents back, we get somebody that we could beat down with our mouth, with our fists, with our money, and we intimidate in marriage. And so sometimes, so when I was going to school and I had to sit with a counselor, and the counselor said to me, "So tell me about you." I was like, "No, you don't need to know about me. I'm paying you. Give me the notes." And he said, "No. You have to tell your story, process your story. You got to unpack what's going on with you before you can help others." Jesus learned obedience by the things he suffered.
That's right.
Jesus submitted himself to his parents,
Right.
to the tutelage.
Right.
Jesus submitted himself to the scriptures, the book, before scriptures were written. He submitted himself to the will of the Father.
Yeah.
And we have no place where we're submitting our flesh. We're calling it prophetic temperament, where we are wrecking havoc, where we're having stampede, where we're leaving victims in our trail.
My God.
And so when I went to school and I had to unpack my junk, and before you know it, I was saying stuff that I didn't pre-plan. And he was like, "Tell me more." And I was like, "More?" There's a lot more. You have the time. And for years, we had to have this class and we had to do our work and do our work and do our work and do our work. And then I came into Christendom and I'm like, these people don't want to do their work. They want to die and go to heaven while they're killing their spouses, their children, relationship that people call church hurt. No, it's just broken souls.
That's it.
It's just collisions. It's just pile up. It's accidents. It's unintended missiles.
Right.
It's weapons that is being used and calling it communication or preaching over your madness, your insanity. And so to have two young people sitting at the table, being vulnerable, and I know the story because I had to teach you to drive because Jean-Pierre over here, he had not developed the patience yet. And I remember on the freeway, it's supposed to be 70 miles an hour, and you were going 20. And I sat in the car and let you drive me on the freeway because I had done my work and I was doing my work.
Right.
And I said to you, put on your flashing light, your hazard light, and just don't pay attention to all the tooting of the horn. Just focus on what is important. And that's how life is. Sometimes you gotta put on that hazard light.
Right. That's good.
And you've got to stop looking at everybody else's pot, everybody else's pile, everybody else's plate, and decide, how does Jean-Pierre want to present Nathali Alexis Cellent? How would you like her to look when God, just imagine in your sanctified imagination, it's roll call.
Right.
And God says, from day one to now, Talk to me about how you prepared your bride for me.
Wow. Well, I would say I
I messed up.
I messed up. I blew it. I sure enough blew it in the beginning. I blew it. But now there's some spots and some blemishes that I'm fixing.
You'll talk to Jesus. He knows already. Talk to me. I mean, just in your sanctified imagination. And it's okay to get vulnerable. Because remember, redemption is waiting for you at the end.
Mhm.
Talk.
Dying to myself, helping her fulfill her dreams, helping her becoming the woman of God that you call her to be, um, helping her to fulfill her call, um, helping her to help me. I know that seems crazy though, but you actually have to help your wife to help you, in a sense, to create the environment, the culture that you want to establish. So uh, I've helped heal her wounds, and wounds that I've caused, wounds that I did not cause, wounds from her childhood. As a husband, when as a husband, you're like a father. You become a father. You become a minister. You become so many hats to your spouse, and um, I would say, God, I did that to help heal her and to uh, cause her to be the woman of God and be that beautiful rose, that beautiful flower she is.
And you're standing in front of the Lord, and it's your time to say, Lord, I've been the helpmate, the helpmeet. How would you talk to the Lord and say, how have you've done?
I've always, I haven't always done the right thing, Lord. I haven't always said the right thing.
You blew it.
See, Lord, he's already started. No, but honestly, even in the midst of all of my mistakes, I've always wanted to see the best version of him. I've always wanted to see him win. I've always supported him in every millions business ventures and amazing creative ideas. I've always wanted to be his defender when people said mean and evil things to him. When he felt alone, I always wanted to be that one person that he could look back and say, okay, she got my back. When everybody else says this, she's right there. I wanted to be the best daughter-in-law I could be to his mom. I always wanted to be the best wife, best mother to his amazing 3 children. I may not have done everything right. I may not have said everything right, but my heart was always in the right place. And Lord, here he is.
That's good, because I watched when Jean-Pierre, we call him John, mom, I've watched, but especially in the last year, how you cared, how you carried yourself, how you became the caretaker for his mom. And I learned something beautiful about you. Is the woman that you always was and is. I watch you feed her, sit with her, show up where most people wouldn't show up. And John is blessed beyond measure that you unselfishly, to the very end, bathed and fed and turned and walked and loved and laughed with John's mom. You were even taking care of John's mom in areas he wasn't even ready to open up to. And so I want to say to the listeners that when you see people in their gifted and in their natural environment, I saw Natalie rise to the occasion with John's mom, and no matter how painful it was, and down to her last when she was time to go to be with the Lord, how you handled her with care. It tells me that you are a phenomenal, that you are a gem, that you are a jewel, that when John was going to Philadelphia, it was to find his bones. It was to find his missing piece that he didn't know that he was missing. It's to find his helpmeet that would help him meet in difficult days when the money was low, when the money was funny, when he didn't feel good about himself, when his friends and his families isolate and left him for dead, that you didn't leave him for dead. It tells me the beauty on the inside of you. And so you could have presented him and can present him without shame to the Lord, because I've watched how you blossom, how you forgive, how you cover, how you reclaim your soul. So I want to say to the listeners that, being a mother to these two phenomenal um, millennium millionaire ministers to the next generation, I could say that they are passing the test, that they are navigating the difficulties, that they have not thrown the towel in, that they are accountable, that they have submitted their lives. Even when Jean Pierre don't want to, we find him. Um, yeah, we hound him and find him, and has to be accountable because he's raising daughters and he's raising a son, and we will not continue that pathetic cycle of abuse, misuse, and discarding another daughter. So, and he sometimes fighting mad, sometimes just, you could see that his eyes didn't care to submit, but honoring leadership and coming under, not listening to the noise outside of those that didn't have his vested interest, to like, look, settle down, Sonny. Like, settle down, okay? Or we'll just bring you in the bushes, tie your eyes up, and have some man just beat your butt and tell us who is hitting you, right? That's not the pastor. That's the mom, right? I'm redeemed now. That was my past life, just kind of flickered out there, right? And so what I'm learning too as a wife is that if the Lord would ask me to talk to me about my husband, is to say that I accepted the assignment, I accepted the mandate, I accepted all the man, mess, money, mankind, manure, everything that he came with. I didn't shy away from his vulnerability, his nakedness, his pain, difficulties, his past, his present, and that I might not have been in this past, but I can be present with him and I can help him navigate his future. That I always apply the blood, I always use grace and mercy, and that I'll always see redemption in his eyes. So if I was to present him to the Lord, I would say that I am wanting nothing, that you have made me mature, and that through the fire, through the rain, through the storm, that I'm in it for the long haul, and that I didn't marry to get divorced, and that in the final analysis, that I can see him naked and not ashamed, that I can stand by his side, proud to be his bride, proud to be his wife, proud to stand in his victory, in his defeat, and knowing that we're doing it together and we're facing all the challenges together that life will bring, that church will bring, that people will bring, that society will bring, that together we win, together we can, and that, Lord, every time I never took my hand out of your hand, because in the beginning I accepted the challenge, like, would you love my son the way I have loved you? And so I want to challenge you that don't throw in the towel. Don't look for fairy tales. Marriage is ministry and marriage is work.
Mm.
If you will see your bride, your groom, through the eyes of redemption, remember, at crucifixion, it was a bloody mess. It was ugly. When Natalie was having her babies, it was a mess. But guess what? Beauty came out of that.
Right.
Your 3 children came out of that. You know, John was at the head, I was at the feet. He wasn't ready yet. But as we are doing these episodes, I want to encourage men and women, saved, unsaved, that life is to be lived, that life is beautiful, and at the end of the evening, that you would have loved well, lived well, and you would have left everything in the earth that you were able to do, that you would live life without the expense of regret. Regret is expensive.
Right.
Reconciliation is beautiful. We've been given the ministry of reconciliation. So, listeners, people out there, wherever you are, hit the subscribe button, lean in, share your story, share how you've navigated, maneuvered marriage in our society now. Marriage, our apostle preached a demon called marriage breaker.
Yes. Yes.
And so now we've seen the stats that 72% of people want a shack. We call that the benefits without paying the price. You don't want the name. You don't know what redemption looks like. You want the beauty. You want the bounties. You want everything, but you don't want to take the name or give your name. It smells like responsibility. It smells like covenant. And it smells like taking all the other options off the table. One way. And so, this is a space where hope intersects with redemption, where you can get up again. Okay, so you cheated. Okay, so you messed up. It's not a mistake, it's called a mess up. Okay, you made the wrong decision, but get up and try again. Remember the children. Remember the perpetual cycle of divorce. Remember that the children pay a high price. And remember that it haunts you, and it talks to you. And that you can't preach over. So, again, tune in, subscribe to Safe Space. This is your prophetic purpose pusher, Pastor Denise, saying thank you for tuning in. Listen to these podcasts, listen to these episodes, listen to people get vulnerable, listen to their lessons, listen to their life story, and don't live a lie. Why not live an authentic life? Until the next episode, live in love, walk in love. Love is the highest call. See you soon.